Congratulations, because a lot of y'all done made it to the other side. A lot of y'all don't even know that we're on the other side because it still looks the same. It still kind of feels the same. But we are on the other side. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you like me, I thought when I crossed to the other side, once I crossed the threshold, it was getting ready to be lit. You get what I'm saying? Like, but no, everything is divine timing, okay? And you can't rush God. You know, you can't rush greatness. You cannot rush the process. You literally have to just stay very in tune with God and stay in alignment and grounded within yourself, knowing that you are on the other side. I want to tell you personally that you are on the other side. You made it. Okay? And everything is getting ready to change.
3 separate things have happened in the last 48 hours or so involving the UAP topic, and together they create a very strange moment. So first, Ross Coulthart posted that he's been told that the president has now been thoroughly briefed on the legacy UAP crash retrieval program. A briefing way beyond what he allegedly received during his first term. And it's surprising because typically we hear that presidents don't get that at all. But specifically, he's been briefed on the allegation of the long-running program that involves recovered non-human technology. If that's true, that is an enormous claim. Secondly, the president himself posted this. So let's be clear, an alien meme isn't evidence of anything. He could just be trolling. It could be engagement bait. Who knows? But hold that thought, because the Department of War's official UAP portal posted this. 1 billion views. A billion views. So now in that same general window, we've got a major journalist claiming that the president has allegedly been briefed on exotic crash retrieval programs. We've got the president himself posting alien imagery with him, and the government publicly highlighting massive engagement around its UAP portal. So does any single one of these prove anything? No. But when multiple UAP adjacent signals all start kind of clustering together at the same time, people pay attention.
A member of our government has told you and others, I guess, that there is a form of alien life and machinery which maybe brought this living creature here that interacted in some form with people?
Yeah, they have, and they've, it's pretty wild. I know, but I'm just telling you, I'm not going to lie to you. I'd take a lie to tell you. You want to put me on a polygraph, I'll take it. But, this is what the guy told me. I mean, I've had a very high-ranking naval official describe, I've talked about this before, underwater craft, something big as a football field, moving at over 200 miles an hour. And there's no fish in the ocean that would do that. We don't even have a sub that'll probably do 40 miles an hour and the last thing he said before he left my office was, it was kind of weird because he didn't go out he went out the side door, which nobody ever uses. And he looked at me, put me up close, and he said, "Tim, they're real." And that's the last thing he said to me. That'll be the title of my book, I guess. Matt Gaetz was involved in something here just recently. He was interviewed and he talked about this interbreeding thing with
we saw that. We saw that.
Well, that's a true story. That was military personnel. I think that would be a good story to talk to him about if y'all can do that.
Right. He says he learned that from someone in the military.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a guy who's an officer in uniform.
Yeah.
And Matt and I and Representative Luna, we all went down to Florida, and we were turned away. And then Matt made a phone call to somebody at the Pentagon, and all of a sudden they opened the doors and brought the pilots in that were supposed to tell us the story in the first place. And he can probably elaborate a little bit more on that. But that was pretty fantastic. That was a made-for-TV special right there in itself.
We're building portals from which we're genuinely summoning aliens, and Sam has added one in the Middle East. During the Biden administration, Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, explored getting a security clearance to join classified AI policy discussions. But staffers at a government contractor helping with the vetting had concerns about his foreign entanglements. One emailed that Altman had been raising, quote, hundreds of billions of dollars from foreign governments, and that, quote, the UAE recently gifted him a car. I assume it was a very nice car. The only person I can think of who ever went through the process with this magnitude of foreign financial ties is Jared Kushner, and the adjudicators recommended that he not be granted a clearance. Altman withdrew from the process. This is one of many new details in my investigation into Altman and OpenAI, which you can read in the New Yorker, link in bio. A senior Biden administration official told us Altman and his Middle Eastern alliances, quote, raised a lot of red flags for some of us, and that, quote, a lot of people in the administration did not trust him 100%. To build AI at the scale Altman wanted, he needed money that few entities on Earth possess, and the company considered extraordinary plans to achieve that. According to internal documents, the highest levels of the company once considered auctioning off access to advanced AI models to governments, deliberately playing world powers like China, Russia, and the US against each other. This was actually presented to an investor. One junior researcher remembered thinking, quote, this is completely fucking insane. OpenAI says this was just one of many ideas batted around, and it was dropped after some employees threatened to quit. Altman connected with Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. After that monarch's alleged role in the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi came under scrutiny in 2018, Altman publicly distanced himself. But we spoke to a policy consultant who remembered that behind the scenes, Altman's question wasn't whether it was wrong to fundraise from bin Salman, but, quote, can I get away with it? He was also aggressively courting the United Arab Emirates, which made national security officials nervous. The UAE has reportedly leaked American technology to Beijing. It's also a repressive, authoritarian state. Some officials worried it could commandeer an American-owned data center and build disproportionately powerful AI. Now, the relationships that gave Biden administration officials pause are a boon under Trump. On Trump's second day in office, Altman and Trump announced Stargate, a $500 billion plan, partially Emirati-funded, to build a vast network of AI infrastructure across the U.S., which has since expanded to include a huge data center campus in the UAE. This kind of AI capacity is shaping the balance of power between nations and all of our security. One former OpenAI executive said, quote, we're building portals from which we're genuinely summoning aliens. The portals currently exist in the United States and China, and Sam has added one in the Middle East. It's just like wildly important to get how scary that should be.
We have pretty big news right now. In newly leaked audio recordings, one of J.D. Vance's top donors, Peter Thiel, urged J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, to reject the Pope's teachings, suggesting that the Pope is a tool of the Antichrist. This was first reported by letters from Leo and Christopher Hale, who obtained the leaked audio recording. In these leaked recordings, Peter Thiel, who's a major Vance supporter, has been propping Vance up for a 2028 run, says that he told Vance to reject the Pope's teachings and to simply pray for him. Went on to suggest that the Pope is a tool of the Antichrist. This is real. And then after this happened, by the way, is when Vance started to go off and talk about how the Pope should better be careful when opining on theology. Remember that direct quote from the Vice President? Maybe now we know why. And maybe now we know who Vance is listening to.
You can ask for flowers. I sit for hours, telling all the bluebirds, the little
What the fucking heck is that? Bishop, what is that? I don't know. Say with me. Probably Chinese.
Senior U.S. intelligence official spotted mysterious, quote, orange orbs next to his helicopter while on a mission last year that left him, quote, speechless. The U.S. official was part of a crew that was investigating reports of, quote, loud thuds along with UAP sightings in the mountains of a sensitive U.S. military facility in late 2025 when they ran into the objects that seemed to be, quote, chasing fighter jets. While investigating, an object suddenly flew towards their chopper and came within 10 feet before before splitting into two smaller objects and speeding off out of sight. Fighter jets were then deployed, and moments later, the crew, quote, saw countless orange orbs swarming in all directions against the backdrop of the mountain. The display lasted several minutes before fading. The orbs were described as, quote, oval-shaped, orange with a white or yellow center, and emitted light in all directions. A third and fourth orb appeared seconds later, making a letter T formation with the others. Then, quote, they dimmed in reverse order, remaining stationary until they vanished from view. The entire event lasted 10 to 15 seconds, the official recalled. Fighter jets then scrambled to identify the objects but were unable to.
My name is Stephen Michael Digna Jr. The following testimony is true and inaccurate as it can be at this time, to the best of my ability, and I am prepared to swear this testimony under oath before the Senate and Congress. I realized I was looking at a cloaking device on a very, very, very large craft that seemed to encompass the whole desert area that I was under. At that moment in time, I glanced and panned my view just to try to get fathom the dimensions of this craft. And I saw a giant bright white light floating in the sky, and it was a hangar bay door opened. Couldn't see doors, it was just a bright white light. And it looked like a window floating through the sky, maybe even a portal. People might, from a distance, think, hey, that's a portal, but I obviously knew it was a craft. So this is a hangar bay door, and there was a female silhouette standing there. At that moment in time, I heard that same voice, and it said very clearly, you were not supposed to see that. You weren't supposed to see it. All of a sudden, I began feeling a thud, thud, thud sound. This was a resonant frequency being pulsed through my body. As I felt this, it increased in speed. Thud, 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 thud. It was very rapid. You can see the same type of thing in the movie Interstellar. Very similar when he falls through the black hole. Too similar. As this thud resonated in my body, I felt my my cells, maybe the quantum level of my body, feel like it was being resonated. I felt like maybe I'm going to be microwaved. Or something to that nature. Either way, I seen some bands coming through. I began lifting up off the ground. My vehicle began lifting with me also. As this happened, my body tipped back, and I could see the underbelly of the craft. You're going to see that design right in front of you. The rectangular shape right in the center there looked like a docking socket for an electrical port. If you're going to take a big male end, this would be the female receiving end for an electrical charger. To skip through that, there were some there's some highlighted parts here, and as you can read them there, I'm going to let you read that for yourself, just for time's sake. However, as this happened, instantaneously I cued in, and I was flat on my back, and I was staring up at the ceiling, and my vision cued into a very, very bright white light. My vision panned over, and there was my wife flat on her back on a table. It was smaller than the table I was laying on, slightly lowered, and she still had the same exact expression on her face, like she was screaming no. However, she was no longer stuck in the running position. She was flat. As I panned a little more in front of me to kind of gauge where I was at, and this all happened in milliseconds, guys. This was, oh crap, what's happening? So this is a very short encounter here. As I panned over, I saw my vehicle with the right passenger tires end lifted up. I saw some people in some white suits, fully garmented masks with some breathing apparatuses. They were working on the vehicle. Slightly next to that was a strange blue rack that looked like it could have been an automotive rack. Could have had another purpose. That was my quick assumption. As I oh, yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
No, if you want to just finish it up.
Yes, sir. So after that had happened, I saw a female right next to me. She was taking some samples from me. It was a human female. She had red hair. She had very fair skin. And after that moment, I also, as I panned over, I could see the window and the desert behind me. I realized we were not in space. I could see the desert floor. I could see the exact two rock formations and one far off in the distance. So this is pinpointed by GPS coordinates. So after that, I panned a little more over, and as I seen this open up, and the bay door behind her open, or maybe just transparent, and I could see out. I also seen that craft right here docked in the ship. And that came through me after trying to get these schematics down on paper while talking to Michael Scratch. So thank you, sir. This man went through PTSD with me. So thank you, Doctor.
They had aliens, alien life forms landing on this base. And apparently there was a lot of thick jungle coverage, so it was good. Good to conceal it. And it was almost a quasi-ritual one night in the base, where they had there were seats set up like a triangle formation. They put the children in the seats, and there was what they call Stargate, looking glass technology in the middle.
This was human beings doing this?
Yeah, this was, looking glasses, I think it's alien technology.
Right, so
this was an NSA facility.
Right, so it's the NSA who were using children with some alien technology to then do what?
This was on October the 31st, which is Halloween, I think. They often use looking glass and open up these stargates on specific ritualistic days.
Right.
I mean, I'm not a scientist, I don't know how it all works, but it's something to do with alignments. So, and they always use looking glass. They open these stargates on this particular date, October the 31st, Halloween. And on this particular day, they got the machine spinning. They use some kind of coil and they run mercury through it, right, on the machine. And some beings came through, right? Beings I've never heard talked about before. These were wolf-type beings, humanoid wolf-type beings, right? Almost like a Bigfoot, right? But smaller, more intelligent looking, and they wear robes, right? And
a bit like in Egyptian carvings, or?
Yeah, kind of.
This is Houston. Say again, 7? Is that the booster or is that an actual sighting? Say again, 7?
We have several, looks like the 3 after actual sighting. Well, looks like hundreds of little particles going down the left out about 3 to 4 miles.
Understand you have many small particles going by on the left. At what distance?
Looks like the gas of the vehicle is disintegrated.
Roger, understand they're about 3 to 4 miles away.
They're past now, they're going to pull over. The booster on either side is a brilliant body of the sun, but just a black background of a billion particles on it.
I'm telling you, I'm getting the off, and there's a reason why I'm getting the off, and everyone can either believe it or they cannot believe it. I don't give two but I am telling you right now, that mother back there is not real. And you can sit on this plane and you can die with them or not. I'm not going to.
Y'all say I'm crazy. Look at that. What is that? That in a mask? Fox News. What is that? Is that a reptile under there? It's a mask. What's going on, y'all? That is a mask. Now keep telling me I'm crazy.
And what episode of the X-Files are we on now? Because Fox News just playing in our face. Ain't no way they got somebody on the show with a mask on that the whole world can see. It look like I can just walk up and take it off. It's like they blatantly putting this stuff in our face because they know we can't do nothing about it. Make it make sense. Like, I'm telling you, man, I'm scratching my head because they got somebody on this show who clearly the whole world can see that's a mask he got on. Like, make it make sense. Are they trolling us? Are they trolling us or something, y'all? Was that real? This man had on a mask and we can see it. The whole world can see it, y'all. It's not a joke. What episode of the X-Files are we on right now, man? I'm tired, dog. I'm telling you, make it make sense. These people are playing in our faces on national television.
We need to talk about the missing scientists, because I just discovered one thing that no one else is looking at. Their spouses. So I was doing some research today on the missing scientists and just connecting all the interesting dots about how they all left their phones behind, and most of them left their wallets behind, and one of them had even wiped their phone clean and cleared their iCloud. And just, there's a lot of similarities. All of them just walked out in the morning. There's so many different things about these missing scientists that are suspicious. But now, there's another one that just dropped. Ingrid Lane went missing on October 15th, 2023. And I thought, okay, if this lady was working for Los Alamos, I'm going to be intrigued. Because I'd just done a bunch of research on these other missing scientists being associated with that lab. And what do you know? A great investigative journalist, Alicia Valdez Rodriguez, just dropped a bunch of info about this lady. And it turns out her husband worked for the DOD. And why is that significant? Well, because when I was looking into these other missing scientists, what I found was another strange pattern. Those that were married to people affiliated with these same laboratories and government agencies. Melissa Casillas worked as an administrative assistant at Los Alamos Laboratories, and her husband worked there as well. They usually carpooled, and she had dropped him off the morning that she went missing. The story gets weird because she went back to her house after she dropped him off and saw her daughter. She told her daughter that she went back to get her badge because she forgot it, but her husband told the police that she did have it, and he would have known that because they were going into the laboratory together. In fact, her family believes that he has something to do with her disappearance. Now, there's no record of Anthony Chavez or Steven Garcia having a significant other, but from all reports, both of them were very sound of mind, so one would think that if they're just walking away from their houses, they're doing so consciously. Which brings us to McCasland, because he's the highest profile disappearance. He was a top-tier military leader. He had deep ties to the Pentagon. He served as commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory, managing a $4.4 billion budget. He directly oversaw the most black budget programs in the United States. And he has unique ties to UAP disclosure because he was actually a resource for Tom DeLonge. Yeah, the guy from Blink-182 that's super into UFOs and was doing this whole project about them. And just like the others, this guy left in the morning, didn't say where he was going, and his wife corroborates that story. But his wife, get this, Susan McCaslin Wilkerson. She reached colonel in the Air Force Reserve. She was a finalist for NASA Group 9. She held leadership roles with defense contractors as the program manager for Boeing SVS and positions at Raytheon. Which brings us to the most recent reporting, which actually was the oldest missing persons of all these different scientists, Ingrid Lane. Now, it was difficult to find details on her career, except for this investigative journalist that was able to uncover a bunch, because it was kind of stripped from the information. All these news articles were saying, oh, well, they didn't really want to release personal information about her. Why not her? Why are we covering up her career path when we know about these other ones? I think it's because it was intentionally being suppressed. So she was a bioengineer and neuroscientist for Mind Research Network, which also contracted with Los Alamos National Laboratory. But her husband was an astrophysicist for the Department of Defense and builds software for directed energy weapons for the Air Force. So now we've got 5 scientists all missing from the same state within a 100-mile radius, all near Los Alamos Labs. 3 of them who are married, all of their spouses have direct ties to government agencies. Conspiracy is not the right word anymore.
I want to jump ahead to a video of one of these scientists before we dissect that whole situation, because when I saw this, I thought that this woman was an alcoholic, maybe had a drug problem. By the way, maybe she did. She's saying some of the craziest shit I've ever heard in my entire life, to the point that I was like, oh, she's mentally ill. She's a drug addict. And it turns out, I'm going to play that clip in just a moment, but to preface this for everybody before they watch it, turns out that she is a, quote, polymath, which means, hang on, where are my notes on her? Just a second. Here we go. A double major in chemistry and biology with a mastery of electrical engineering and physics. She was the co-founder of the Institute for Exotic Science in Huntsville, Alabama, which is called Rocket City. It's known as the heart of the aerospace defense world. It's also arguably, and Luke, correct me if I'm wrong, where Project Paperclip began. So German scientists, 16 of them, that were brought over after World War II to work on exotic physics were taken, including anti-gravity, I don't even know what this is, zero-point energy. All of their projects were swiftly classified as black budget in the defense industry. Her and her father worked on anti-gravity technology. She thought that she was being stalked by Raytheon and BlackRock because they wanted to suppress her work. In June of 2022, she was only 34 years old. She was found dead. The official ruling was, we'll say, self-deletion for the algorithm here, by a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And in leading up to her death, she told colleagues that she was being targeted by energy weapons. And I have seen pictures of her hands that look like they were put in a microwave, which will pop in here in post. She was being harassed, as mentioned, by defense contractors, and she explicitly said, if you see any report that I killed myself, I most definitely did not. Guys, can we throw up SOT 3, please?
The ultra-terrestrials, I think, have you heard of the P-52s and the P-47s? Do you know what that is? They're us from the future. They're from here. They are you. They are me. They're from here, from the future. P-47 is present plus 47,000 years. P-52 is present plus 52,000 years. And basically there's a calamity, right? So there's like a apocalypse scenario in the near future. It wipes out most of like everything, man. And there's the ones that go underground and survive, right? And then there's the ones that somehow stay on the surface and miraculously don't die.
We are here to say, when they make this crime in a synagogue, this will not make this Jewish at all. This will not make this as a part of our religion. We will stand there, cry out, this is not in our name, this is not in the name of our religion. We lived in peace with the Palestinian people for hundreds of years until this movement of Zionism started. So it's not the differences of religion which is causing this conflict. It's the brutal occupation. The world now is awake. They know the danger to the world is the Zionist movement. This is the danger to the whole world. One day it's Gaza, one day it's Palestine, one day it's Lebanon, one day it's Iran, and now in the US. The Zionists run after the protesters. When I came to this protest, right when I came out from my car, I was hit by the Zionist people. They tried to grab our signs, they pushed out, they punched us. We used to this. We feel it's our responsibility to God, it's our responsibility to our religion to stand up and say, no, this is not our religion. So no matter the price, we will stand united with our pro-Palestinian brothers and sisters against this injustice.
Your soul is in your keeping alone. Even though those who presume to claim you be kings or men of power, when you stand before God, you cannot say, but I was told by others to do thus, or that virtue was not convenient at the time. This will not suffice.
You're seeing a lot of talk about demons and other things like that. You know, Vice President Vance has mentioned that. My friend Tucker Carlson has also said that too. And I've had private conversations with him about that. And I do want to address that really quickly, both as an intel officer, a guy who studied physics, a practicing Roman Catholic like Secretary Rubio and Vice President Vance. I respect those views of spirituality and demonic deception, and I think we should be concerned about that. But I think it's theologically premature without knowing everything equating everything to demons, because God has created this wonderful, visible and invisible order. He's created humans, animals, angels, and other types of non-human intelligence. And I don't think us as humans, we understand all of God's creation to kind of use a theological kind of framework on that. And I think that everybody needs to keep that in mind, to be respectful of that. And the Catholic Church certainly has a long history in this. And there are Catholic theologians like the late Dr. Paul Thigpen, Dr. Diana Pasulka at University of North Carolina, Dr. Brett Robinson at Notre Dame. They've provided a lot of that analysis and theological interpretation on how people can view this. So I see that as a big impasse, certainly because of the commentary that I'm hearing about that kind of thing. It's very dangerous language, and I think we need to be more thoughtful about that. And I'm just happy I'm able to plug that for a little bit, because I don't hear many advocates on the disclosure movement side really addressing that. I think it's a very dangerous mindset to be in if you preconceive all this as some sort of malevolence. And I just wanted to mention that.
That's very interesting.
Do you think there's a connection between Jeffrey Epstein and UFOs?
For sure.
And what is it?
Absolutely. So, look, Epstein put together a conference basically hosting and platforming all of the top gravity researchers in the world. Epstein was taking people down in submarines, including Stephen Hawking, to study quantum gravitational anomalies in the Bahamas Basin, basically in the Bermuda Triangle region. So Epstein was clearly interested in understanding gravity, and quite possibly for the sake of propulsion. So, okay, Epstein is continuing some kind of research that Robert Maxwell was involved in that has to do with conquering gravity. I tell you why I think electrogravitics, but here's where it gets really much crazier. That, by all accounts, all of the young women involved in Epstein's compromat operations were, well, most of them were Nordic, and none of them were black or brown women, transhumanist. And so Epstein is trying to create eugenically enhanced Nordic people at Zorro Ranch. This fixation with Nordics and eugenic uses of biotechnology that then spins Epstein's interest in gravity in the direction of, oh, the UFO phenomenon, electrogravitics. He's interested in these Nordics and their connection to UFOs. So these people were interested in Atlantis. They were trying to breed Nordics, and they were interested in gravity, in conquering gravity. Therefore, I suspect that the interest in gravity is an interest in electrogravitics and, the Townsend Brown effect. And basically, it's all part of the UFO phenomenon that they're trying to crack.
Y'all know these Epstein files are nothing new, right? You do know that this is the disclosure that they were talking about with the aliens, right? And they said that the disclosure would start to leak out slowly. These files have leaked out slowly.
There's an element to this UAP phenomenon that has ties to human trafficking. And that's not groundbreaking information either, because 3 or 4 years ago, Michael Herrera was on Sean Ryan's podcast telling his very personal experience with seeing a UFO off in the distance with shadow operators loading crates, I think it was, or something onto the crafts. And he finds out, I believe later, that it was actually human beings inside those crates. But as they approached, they get disarmed. These operators disarmed them. And I believe he thought that he was not going to be making it home that day. So this is not, again, classified information. Right. But there was a group of men that spoke to start this off, laying out their investigations into human trafficking. And there are elements that tie into the UAP phenomenon. In fact, that day, they were on an operation while they were there talking to us, where they were moving a woman who was directly tied to Epstein from one city to another to get her to a safe house. They shared specific things with us that made my skin crawl.
Interracial alien?
Mating? What the F is going on? Like, wait a second, you had whistleblowers tell you this kind of thing? Do you please unpack that?
I had a guy who was uniformed. He was a senior enlisted with the United States Army. Came into my office in Crestview, Florida, in a non-classified setting. I had members of my staff there, and what they explained is that the military ran a very secret program where aliens that were living were in forced breeding programs with humans that had been abducted from war zones and from even the caravans of migrants. Now, again, I didn't verify this, but what the whistleblower was telling me is that there were like between 6 and 12 locations around the country where this happened, and what he wanted was a group members of Congress to all show up at the same time at all of these different locations so that any of those activities could not be moved. And of course, it's a physical impossibility to get members of Congress to simultaneously show up at like 8 locations at one time. And so that never occurred.
There are people out there right now, many watching right now, who just don't believe that any of this is happening. And that's fine. I get that. But over the last 2 weeks, multiple people, including 2 members of Congress, have not denied that our own government is experimenting with mixing the DNA between some alien species and humans, while the White House continues to telegraph that further disclosure is coming. We don't know when.
So for a number of decades, we have used the retrieved non-human bodies, biologicals they're called, and created creatures that are part human, part not human, and very advanced biomedical research. And I've known about this since the 90s, and these have been used in covert operations, like the CIA document we have that admits they were using this sort of tech as well as the man-made UFOs to stage and hoax alien abductions and all manner of nonsense. The problem is, it sounds like a science fiction movie, but it's been part of a larger multi-decade psychological warfare operation, partly run out of a division of the CIA and some out of other special operations and attached to the aerospace industry giants. But yes, we know details of that. We know where these weird experiments are going on. And I've handed that off to certain people in the national security structure and to certain members of Congress, as well as the names of whistleblowers who have been involved.
Okay, let me hold on. So there's a breeding program. Matt Gaetz said that. Tim Burchett didn't deny that. You're confirming that. Are there female volunteers that are taking part in this program? Like, how does that work?
No, there are no. The human subjects are ones who have been captured in distressed areas and used for human experimentation. It's similar to what one of our whistleblowers admitted to, last year, when he said that.
Do you know, Dr. Greer, why would we do this? Like, who would want to do that?
They would do it to try to create diversions and make people think that there's a threat from outer space when there isn't one, and also to confuse and cover up illegally run covert programs and say the aliens are doing it. It's a classic diversion and deception operation.
Let me ask you about that. General Mike Flynn, and I don't mean to cut you off. We have to do this in the interest of time. So for everyone at home, that's why. General Mike Flynn retweeted the interview with Tim Burchett. Here's the quote. I think we have the tweet. "I believe Tim Burchett. He is not a man to mince words or to short sell the normal political BS, but be aware of a false flag alien operation by rogue elements inside the U.S. government." Dr. Greer, can you explain what he's talking about?
Yes, and this is exactly what Werner von Braun, who invented the rocket for Adolf Hitler, warned us on his deathbed. And he said that there would be an attempt to hoax a threat from outer space and kind of throw the world into sort of a totalitarian global dystopia. And that's been a plan that's been around since the mid-1950s. Okay. So General Flynn is 100% correct. And these sort of weird and scary things that you hear about associated with UFOs and UAPs is part of that psychological warfare operation.
Okay. I just want to ask you about Artemis 2, circled the moon, and NASA keeps shutting off the feed. They've got a live feed. You can essentially look anytime you want. And anytime there's something outside the window that doesn't look right out there in space, they just shut off the feed. Why are they doing that? Who's monitoring this that we're not supposed to see?
Well, it goes to a national security agency filtering system. And my uncle, as you know, helped design the lunar module,
Right.
landed on the moon in 1969. And that was done then through a relay station in Australia and some other locations. So that is routine, just to be able to be sure nothing is said or seen without first being captured and reviewed.
So it's safe to say Artemis 2 is being watched. Is that safe to say?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
of
other
course.
thing, and we don't have any time, but they didn't release any photos from the dark side of the moon that were not like iPhone 17 edited. Like there were no raw photos and you couldn't see the feed. They said they lost connection, so you couldn't see the feed the whole time this thing was going behind the moon, which is very suspicious. 15 seconds. Any thought on that?
Yes, one of our whistleblowers, Carl Wolf, saw the images in '68 coming back from that area, and there were artificial structures that were there that were removed from what NASA saw. So we know there are objects there.
That would explain that. Dr. Greer, we're going to get an answer. We're going to get there, my friend.
Where do we start? Should we start with an alien hybrid breeding program where they're capturing caravans of immigrants and forcing them into this, or should we start with the fact that a congressman who is well respected thinks that if this is fully disclosed, it's going to set the country on fire? I'm going to hand this one over to you here. I'm speechless.
Sure. Well, first of all, I've had the privilege of speaking to Representative Tim Burchett and his colleagues, and what he's saying regarding access to very sensitive information, he's absolutely correct. Some of the people that briefed those individuals, I personally know. They were colleagues of mine back in the day. He's absolutely correct that some of the population, I think, would probably be potentially concerned about how much we know about this topic, and for several reasons. We can go into that. Now, as far as this notion of alien crossbreeding and hybridization, let me just preface this. When I was in the Pentagon at ATIP, I was a nuts and bolts kind of guy, so really airframe, air integrity, the material science and propulsion behind the vehicles themselves, not so much the occupants. But what Gates is referring to is something called, in the vernacular, it's known throughout kind of the UFO community as MyLabs. And what it suggests is that there's been a long-standing agreement or understanding between us and our friends from out of town that have allowed us to work with whatever these are, in a cooperative agreement, and in exchange for that, supposedly they would have access to certain human specimens biologically in order to test. I have to say, first and foremost, I heard about that while I was at the Pentagon. I was not privy to the specifics of that. From my understanding, that relationship began, if it is true, sometime in the 1950s. And has continued. I have met several individuals, former intelligence officers for the Air Force and other services, who swear by it, who actually say they've had encounters with UAP and have seen military personnel in and around the vehicles, as if, very nonchalant, as if it was supposed to be. I have to be careful with going into any type of speculation about hybridization or any type of scientific study or research, because again, that was not my forte. But what I will say is I've had plenty of individuals tell me verbatim that the military military industrial complex is far more involved in this topic than anyone really knows. There are cases which seem rather interesting, where you have, in some cases, UAP potentially being escorted by American fighter jets and allied fighter jets. So that would give you some sense of cooperation, maybe between us and whatever they are. I can't tell you for certain, because simply I wasn't privy to that, if that indeed existed. But I will also say it's really not that far of a stretch. If we were to come into contact with, let's say, just another nation.
Wouldn't it be crazy if a documentary team hired by the Discovery Channel discovered a child trafficking ring deep-rooted inside the American government back in 1988? Wouldn't it be crazy if this all started when Lawrence E. King, a political activist from Nebraska, was arrested on $40 million worth of tax fraud? Wouldn't it be crazy if funding for this documentary was pulled after connections were made between Boys Town church camps and recruiting of young men and women for special parties? Wouldn't it be crazy if, despite numerous cases of individual allegations, 2 separate congressional grand juries decided the entire thing was some elaborate, well-orchestrated hoax? Wouldn't it be crazy if they actually imprisoned some of the victims? Wouldn't it be crazy if the FBI and the CIA lost all the evidence in the Lawrence E. King case? Wouldn't it be crazy if Senator Lawrence Schmidt claims he was threatened on the floor of the legislature by an anonymous call? And wouldn't it be crazy if the investigator hired to look into this case died mysteriously in an airplane disintegration crash?
I heard from multiple people. I called a couple of people. They go, yeah, I think the government's going to come out and tell everyone there's no God. We were created by aliens. All the world religions are fake. And deal with that. Do with that what you will. Who knows? Now, that didn't happen. I think the government's kind of backed off on that. They're like, well, make your own conclusion. Choose your own adventure. But supposedly that's what they were going to tell everybody. Like, by the way, it's all fake. There's no God. You were created by aliens. I really believe that's what they were going to say. And they were just going to tell everyone to deal with it. Deal with it. And they called a bunch of pastors and they were like, hey, by the way, you're going to have to, your congregation's going to get upset because during the morning press briefing, we're going to announce that there's no God and we're all a creation of aliens. I mean, it's like, I mean, what are we doing to these people at the end of their lives? Could you think of a worse way to get old than the way you get old now? Is there a worse generation? Is there a worse time? Now, yes, the boomers have all the fucking money. They own these big houses. That's all nice. But they don't have minds anymore. Their minds have disintegrated. They've melted in their heads. I mean, it's unbelievable. And now at the end of their life, while they're frothing in a Facebook rage, wandering around their house, we tell them, by the way, we don't think there's a God or anything. We were created by aliens. That's the last thing they hear before they collapse on their keyboard as they're responding to their sister that they barely speak to. Well, actually, the trans issue is more of an issue than you think it is.
Yeah, here's what's happening, because it's not just one group of aliens.
What's the different groups?
The big 5.
Okay, tell me what's going on.
Let me begin. This is really, I'm telling you, Joe, this is a real deal.
We're listening to you.
Well, first off, elves is the main group.
Okay.
And they call them the elves. It's clockwork elves.
I don't think you're allowed to say that anymore.
There are bad things that look like elves that have horns when they show you who they really are.
Damn.
They're bad aliens.
I'm with you.
AI is alien.
Like a robot?
Yeah, they're like robots coming to kill you.
Jesus Christ.
The chimeras are alien.
And there's a hive mind sort of thinking to a lot of it.
They want the organs. I swear on my kids I told you the truth about that.
I believe you. I believe you.
They're coming after everybody.
Jeez.
It's a breakaway civilization, dude. We don't know what they got. Joe, they're control freaks.
Well, everybody's a
That's why I'm so
freak.
glad you're in the fight now. These guys are on stuff that, like, nobody even knows.
What do you think they're on?
Stuff they've been given.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
You know, there's like armed guys with machine guns.
That is a group of people that were obsessed with combat.
About the most fearless killers there are.
Do you think that's from their heritage of war?
I mean, it's just like, it's mental illness, man.
Yeah.
This is for anyone that can see the writing on the wall. For everyone else, just keep scrolling. Look, I know that being early is as bad as being late, and I know that you care about everyone that you're trying to open their eyes and let them know what's about to happen. And I know what you're getting back. We'll be okay. This is all right. It'll be over in a couple of weeks. Nothing to see here. We'll be fine. And they think you're some sort of crazy lunatic. But don't waste your energy and resources, is all I can tell you. Prepare yourself, get ready, plan your exit strategy. Go dark on your social media, particularly if you've been outspoken against the forces that are currently in control. And the reason being, as things get more chaotic, it will be easier to dispatch you, and that's what will happen. They'll start to look to get rid of anyone that opposes or has opposed or was outspoken against the current regime. So go dark. Don't waste your time on energy of all those people that are saying, we're okay, we'll be fine, because look, they're not going to make it. They're going to be late, they're not going to be prepared, and they're going to be collateral damage, and there's going to be a huge amount of the population wiped out from this. So please, please, please do not waste your energy. Put yourself 1 year ahead in your mind. You can't carry dead weight. That's all they're going to be. You're going to have to drag them, you're going to have to spoon feed them the whole way. So just move on, look after yourself, start preparing, Get yourself an exit strategy and get everything in place now, and make sure you go dark. Super important.
Something is gonna happen. Something is going to happen. I really can't say what I want to say because TikTok is sensitive, but something is going to happen. I made a video yesterday, and that video went viral when I was talking about how time is speeding up. It almost feels like life is being rushed, if that makes sense. Life is being rushed. Like, it's like I can't put my finger on it. I can't put my finger on it, but I feel like life is being rushed. Life is winding down. Something is coming to an end. Something is going to happen. It's like if you don't handle your business, you're not going to have time for your family. You're not going to have time to spend time with your kids. Make dinner. We are winding down. I don't know what's going to happen. And I keep saying this. I keep saying this. I don't know when, where, or how big, but something is going to happen. I keep telling y'all this. Y'all don't believe me. Well, some of y'all do, and some of y'all don't. And the ones that don't, you gonna see. You are going to see. But something ain't adding up. Something is sinister and wicked and evil that is hovering over this whole entire globe. Something ain't right. Something ain't right. Something is not right, y'all.
I think this is it, guys. I think this is it. I saw like a few days ago this guy saying he had a dream that he like envisioned that this was the end. And he said he couldn't explain why. And I just can't believe, like, you know. So I think this is it, guys. So say a prayer before bed. And let's get ready to, you know,